had high levels of penile cancer, because of the coal tar that they were exposed to when they were climbing up and down chimneys. While the chimney sweeps in the continent, in France, had much lower levels. The reason? Wine? No, the French washed. They took baths. The English didn't take any bath. So they were constantly exposed to these carcinogenic factors. Coal tar is carcinogenic. Constant exposure in the folds of the penis caused the tumors. So again, looking at those simple factors, and exposure to these carcinogenics are those kind of factors. We live in a world, a soup full of chemicals. Tens of thousands of chemicals, hundreds of thousands of chemicals to be produced. And they're never tested together. So a single chemical may be tested as a carcinogen, but you don't know what that chemical in a soup of several hundred others is going to have an effect on the body. Europe is fortunately moving towards the regulation of these things, much to the I got a bit jet lag. To the horror of the American chemical industry, because the European Union is saying we need to look at all of these factors, and are any of them carcinogenic? We need to look at the combination of these things. And the American chemical industry is saying, no, we don't want to do that. Just let us produce these factors. And really, they are critical. Even small exposure to combined carcinogens cause significant increases in cancer incidence. Most examinations of chemicals for safety only include tests for these combined toxicities. As a result, we give false assurances. We are running a major trial. We're exposing ourselves to this soup of air, water, and food pollution. As an experiment, we're going to see what's going to happen to the human race. Chronic undernutrition, I talked about that before. Micronutrient deficiencies. Again, if you're eating a healthy diet, whole foods, you're eating fresh foods, you're cooking those foods yourself, you're not likely to need supplements. You may need them, but probably you won't. But people don't eat these appropriate foods. Bad fats, and I talked about omega-6s. Omega-6s are vegetable fats. Vegetable fats are not traditional. What were the traditional fats that people had? They ate fats from animals that were grass-fed. They ate olive oil. They ate fish oils, maybe a little bit of nut oil. But the increase in exposure to omega-6s is something that's quite modern. It's an industrial fact that we can express either by solvents or high-pressure means, getting the fats out of these things, which are not traditional. And exposure to these things is actually one of the causes of this ongoing inflammation. There is this study here for prostate cancer found strong association between omega-6 and the occurrence of this kind of cancer. Fat cells themselves produce estrogen. I talked about that before. If you carry weight around your middle, you're going to produce estrogens. Estrogens are growth factors. Why do little girls who are little skinny things start developing breasts and hips? Estrogen is a growth factor, just like testosterone is a growth factor. And appropriately, those kinds of growth factors are important. Allows for fertility and the development of the maturity. But there are different kinds of estrogens. There are different kinds of estradiol. Diets that are high in omega-6s produce a level of the 16 estradiol that is highly inflammatory, and these are the factors associated with breast cancer. And when you redress the balance between 2 and 16, you reduce the incidence of breast cancer. Cultures that eat a lot of fish have lower levels of breast cancer. Cultures that eat a lot of soy products have low levels of breast cancer. Cancer in light. Women who work at night have higher levels of breast cancer because they have low levels of melatonin. Even a small amount of light at night is associated with an increase in breast cancer. I mean, again, look at our ancestors. Sun went down, it was dark. You went to sleep. Maybe sat around the fire, talked for a little while, sang some song, told stories. You went to bed. It was dark. Now, you got night lights on, you've got street lights outside, you've got clocks that are illuminated. All of these things affect your melatonin levels. And melatonin deficiency is found in most women with breast cancer. Now, is it the cause? I don't know. But certainly, lots of people are looking at using melatonin as a supplement with women with breast cancer and finding significant results with that. Stress, I talked about that. Stress, why does stress cause you cancer? And this is it's a strange term when we look at stress. Are we talking about stress? No, we're talking about distress. And everybody's different. How you were brought up for the first 6 or 9 months of your life determines how you manage stress. For some people, standing up in front of a group of people like this would be just terrifying. And they would suffer distress. I like it. I like getting up and talking in front of people. It makes me a bit nervous, but it's eustress for me. It makes me feel good. So we all have that. My friend Torin likes to ride motorcycles. I like to ride motorcycles. We went a couple of years ago down this off-road near Cape Town. And we're up on the top of this hill, these big motorcycles. And it looks like about 60 degrees down. I'm sure it wasn't that. And we're up there, and he says, we're going to go down this way. And it was just like, it wasn't even a path. It was just a rut in the road. And Torin says, look, I'm going to go down, and if you don't want to come down, I'll come back up and take the bike down. You can walk down. And I thought, yeah, you know, we're a bit weird that way. Not necessarily common sense, you know. I could have thought, yeah, that's a good idea. I don't want to fall off and break my leg. But no, being a man, I thought, well, why not? Worst thing I can do is fall off and break my leg. So I went down. It was magnificent. It was delightful. It was exciting. I enjoyed it. That's good stress. So it isn't stress itself, it's distress. And that can be measured. You can measure distress as opposed to eustress. You can measure it in the blood. And people who have distress get disease. Happy people don't get disease. Generalization, but there's some truth in it. You wake up in the morning, and you feel good about your life. You look forward to it. You're not likely to get sick. I don't have a reference for that, but I think there's some relevancy in that. Anyway, this is one of the studies that was done in 1987 about cancer and rats. I recently went through, it took me 3 months to get ethics approval to work with 40 mice. So I don't know what it's like in South Africa when you go to ethics committee to do research. But, I mean, I had to produce documents that were that thick that said these rats are going to be kept in the right place. And I had to name the person who was actually going to look after the rats. So they're very keen on animal rights in Australia. You know, and I feel bad that we have to kill rats. But the fact is, we do get information about this, and it is important to get that kind of information. And the rats sacrifice their life so that that information can help us. And they're right. We do need to care for those rats appropriately. Kill them humanely. Sorry? Lightly? Lightly kill them, yes. You have to, in the ethics document, tell them exactly how you're going to do it. You have to show them the size of the cage. Psychobiologist working in the past decade in stress, tumor development, activity, and natural killer cells. Considering all the immune cells show the strongest activity in preventing metastases, the strongest response to stress. Again, the immune system, when we doing a seminar on Saturday for practitioners,